All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're unpacking a really high-stakes legal fight. You've got a homeowner in Idaho going up against not one, but two venture capital firms. And this is so much more than just a dispute over a single house. It's a fascinating and, frankly, a pretty disturbing case study in what some legal experts are starting to call equity theft, basically using the legal system itself to strip value from a property. So, where does this all come to a head? Well, the date you need to remember is March 20th, 2025. We're in Lewiston, Idaho. This is the day everything changed. It's the moment this long-running legal battle exploded into a physical confrontation. And believe me, after this, there was no going back for anyone. And what's just wild about that day is the sheer scale of the response. I mean, you gotta understand, this wasn't some criminal raid. This was a civil action, an eviction. But look at the hardware they brought. 5 sheriff's vehicles, a police cruiser, and a team of about 7 officers. And their objective? To evict one man, Jeremy Bass, from the home he lived in for 2 decades. It's a lot. Yeah, and you can bet that kind of show of force didn't go unnoticed. A civil rights attorney named Marcus Wellington weighed in, and he put it perfectly. He said that deploying overwhelming force like this in a civil case, well, it raises serious questions. He argued it looks a lot less like simple enforcement and a whole lot more like straight-up intimidation. So, let's dig into that. This first part is all about that show of force. And it's not just how the eviction of Jeremy Bass went down, but crucially, when it happened. The timing is everything here. Okay, so the timing all comes down to this really clever, some would say cynical, legal strategy called strategic mooting. So what is that? It's basically a race against the clock. Imagine you have an appeal heading to a higher court. Strategic mooting is when the other side takes a drastic action, like, say, physically seizing the property you're fighting over, before the court can hear your appeal. The whole idea is to make the appeal irrelevant, or moot. Because hey, if they already have the house, what's the point of the appeal anymore, right? It's a total checkmate move. And this timeline, man, it just lays it all out perfectly. Check this out. On March 10th, the Supreme Court denies Bass's request to pause the eviction on a technicality, so just a procedural hiccup. 10 days later, while Bass is literally scrambling to file new emergency motions, bam, the eviction goes down. And then, like clockwork, just 7 days after that, the plaintiffs file to dismiss his entire appeal. Their argument? Sorry, it's moot now. We have the house. It happened exactly as he had predicted.
So you're probably asking, how on earth did it even get to this point? Right. To get that, we need to rewind. We have to look at the absolute core of this whole fight, which is a really fundamental question: who actually owns this house?
And this is where it gets really interesting. The entire foundation of Jeremy Bass's defense rests on one single, powerful piece of paper. It's a full Reconveyance document from way back in 2009. It's notarized, it's on the public record, and it says, in no uncertain terms, that the original loan on his house was paid off completely. So his argument is simple. If the loan was satisfied, then how could there possibly be a legitimate foreclosure? The whole thing, he claims, was built on fraud.
And Bass didn't just tuck this document away in a file cabinet. No, he went a step further. He actually posted it, along with other legal notices, right in his front window for the whole world to see. This is a legal move called constructive notice. The idea is that you're putting the evidence out there so plainly that nobody can claim they didn't know. Not the buyers, not the sheriff, nobody. It's basically saying, you can't claim ignorance. The proof is right here.
Okay, let's talk about the money. Because at the end of the day, that's what this is really about. We're talking about an estimated $305,000 in home equity. That's 20 years of payments, of life, of value built up in that home. Now, hold that number in your head, because the price that these two LLCs paid at the disputed foreclosure auction, just over $165,000. Think about that gap. That massive difference between the home's value and the sale price, that's the prize. That's the profit.
And there's a name for this kind of play. Financial justice advocates call it foreclosure arbitrage. As Dr. Maria Gonzalez puts it, it's a mechanism that literally transforms a family's equity into corporate profit. And the key here is that it's not done through a normal open market sale. It's done through, and I quote, procedural maneuvering.
So yeah, you can see the setup here, right? It's a classic David versus Goliath story. One guy against a well-funded machine. So let's follow his journey through the legal gauntlet and see the kind of systemic hurdles he was up against.
Now, Bass ended up representing himself in court. acting as his own lawyer, pro se. But this wasn't some brave choice he made. He was what legal experts call perforce pro se. That perforce part is key. It means by force of necessity. He was forced to go it alone because the system itself made it impossible for him to get help.
And when I say impossible, I am not exaggerating. Get this, he contacted over 120 law firms across 3 different states, and not one of them would take his case. Not one. That's what's known as a representation desert. It's an area of the law where, for a regular person, finding a lawyer is like finding water in the Sahara. And being all alone in court like that left him incredibly vulnerable to a key tactic the other side used: speed. Just look at this timeline. The whole thing, from the first lawsuit to him being thrown out of his house, took less than 8 months. That is lightning fast in the legal world. Experts call it process compression. You basically steamroll the case through the lower court so fast that the appeals court, which moves at a much more deliberate pace, can't possibly catch up in time. So let's pull back the curtain and look at the actual playbook. What were the specific strategies of dispossession used here to separate this man from his home and, more importantly, his equity? When you boil it all down, you're looking at 2 totally different arguments that are just talking past each other. On one side, you have Jeremy Bass. He's arguing about the substance of the case: fraud, a paid-off loan, a rigged auction. He's saying the whole foundation is rotten. On the other side, you have the LLCs. They're all about procedure. Their main claim is, hey, we're bona fide purchasers, we bought it at auction, we're protected by the law. They argued the court shouldn't even look the messy foreclosure details. Its only job is to decide who gets the keys to the house right now. And this is where a tactic called procedural gatekeeping comes in. And it is maddening. The court literally refused to look at Bass's evidence that the auction was rigged. And why? On a technicality. They said his paperwork was filed as a reply to a reply, which isn't allowed. So just like that, with one little procedural rule, his most explosive evidence was thrown out before anyone even saw it.
You see the trap here? One foreclosure expert, Dr. Alina Rodriguez, calls it a closed logical system. It's a total catch-22. The court told Bass, you are not allowed to argue about whether you actually defaulted on the loan. That's not what this case is about. But then, in the very next breath, the court used that exact same alleged default as the legal reason to evict him. He loses by definition, no matter what the facts are.
And all of this entire procedural maze has led us to right now. The whole case has landed on the steps of the Idaho Supreme Court. And their decision here isn't just about Jeremy Bass. It could set a massive precedent for homeowners across the state, maybe even the country. So the company's argument is it's moot, we have the house. But Bass is firing back, saying not so fast. He's arguing his appeal is still very much alive, based on 3 classic legal exceptions. First, he's still suffering a massive financial injury. That $300,000 in equity is gone. Second, and this is a big one, he argues this strategy is capable of repetition yet evading review. Meaning, if the court lets them get away with it, this will become the new playbook to cheat the appeals process every single time. And third, he says this case is a matter of huge public interest. It affects the rights of every single homeowner and the integrity of the courts. And one appellate specialist, Dr. James Morgan, really puts a fine point on it. He says the Supreme Court is at a fundamental crossroads. They have to make a choice. Do they go with a formalistic approach, where technical rules are more important than what's right? Or do they take a functional approach and protect the actual, meaningful right to an appeal from being manipulated out of existence? And that really is the question that hangs over this whole thing, isn't it? Can justice be permanently mooted by force? Can a fundamental right, the right to appeal, just be erased if one side has enough money and moves fast enough? The answer the court gives won't just decide who gets one house in Idaho. It could fundamentally change the rules of the game for homeowners everywhere.